Hi guys, it's Deborah from North of Somewhere Nomad, and today in this video I'm going to talk about how I'm preparing for winter to live in my 2014 Ford Fiesta fully camperized vehicle, which I have been living in for the past 3.5 months. So I'm going to share some of the things that I put in place, like where I'm going to park, shelter, heat, and also some of the gear that I put in place. So if you're interested in hearing more, let's go. Okay, first thing, right out the gate is parking. So where am I going to park? I have done all three different types of car camping. So stealth camping, car camping at designated overnight parking spaces, and tons of car camping at campgrounds. Given the size of my vehicle and the limited amount of space that I have, I've decided that I'm going to winter car camp at BC Parks campgrounds. And the reason for that is at these campgrounds, we're allowed to stay camp for 2 weeks. So each campground, 2 weeks per calendar year. So that will give me the opportunity to kind of, ground myself into one spot, because it's going to take me a while to set up all the things that I'm going to show you in just a moment. There are only certain campgrounds that you can winter camp. So what I've done is I've done a bunch of research on which campgrounds offer that. And I'm kind of strategically moving around to each campground based on where I'm going to be and things like that. So that's my plan. I'm going to be car camping at winterized, available BC Parks campgrounds. So the second most important thing I am preparing for over the winter is shelter. So if you've seen any of my past videos, you know that when I'm car camping at campgrounds, I have my little, no, it's not little, but my SUV tent, which has gives me so much extra room, and I really love it, but it is not going to make it through the winter. So some of the reasons that I decided I'm not going to winter car camp with my SUV tent is because, well, first of all, one of the poles has split. Where I bought the tent, I also purchased this extended gear guard warranty that would cover anything for the next 2 years after I bought the tent. So when it started to split, and I called the store where I bought it, they explained to me that I could either get a refund on the tent or they would give me a replacement. But it happened that because we're in the fall, all their camping tent stock is out. So what after that, I decided that I felt like I still needed a tent, but because this SUV tent that I have, it's primarily for the winter, it's primarily for the summer. The fabric is really light, and you can see the fly tent, it's kind of flimsy, and it can handle rain up to, I don't know, a day and a half, and then rainwater starts to seep into the tent. So that's not going to work. So also, because of the height of the tent, and you can see relative to my car, that height is not going to work for the next part of the plan that I'm going to tell you about because it's too high. Another reason is that I cannot run my car while it's attached to the hatch because the exhaust pipe is right there. And so you just, you can't run the car when it's attached to something like that. So that's an issue. Right, so I decided that I'm not going to use the SUV tent and I'm going to return it and get my money back. Also, I remembered that way at the back of my storage unit, I have a standalone tent that's not quite as high as this one that I had been gifted a very long time ago. So when I remembered that, I thought I'm going to try and pitch this tent here today to see if it's going to work for the rest of the plan that I have in place. So I'm going to do that in just a sec. But what I also did was I bought a super heavy duty, I think it's 10 by 20 tarp, that when I experimented with that with the SUV tent, it actually extends the whole length of the tent and the car. And I also have tarp poles, and I bought some really good tent camping rope, and I don't know, I think I've showed you guys those spokes that I have for, I posted that I think in my last video. And what's great about that tarp is it will allow me to back in and back out. So that part was great, especially when I was using it with the SUV tent. So I'm going to try that as well. I also bought another lighter weight, smaller tarp, which I'm going to use for something else I'm going to show you in just a sec. So I feel like that's going to be my shelter solution. And right now it's just in theory, so I have to put together the tent, and because it's not going to be an SUV tent, I kind of strategized that I would put the little entranceway either to the hatch of the car or by the side door where I used to get in and out, or like when I'm stealth camping and things like that. And then also how the tarp will go. So I'm going to do all of those. Well, I'm going to pitch the tent, and then we'll see, if that's even going to work. So I'll do that in just a bit. The other thing I've got those really good winter doorway mats with a rubber underneath. So over the summer, I was just using a flimsy little blanket that you would use for on the beach or something like that. So now we're going into wet. So I got those mats to deal with cold and wet. Okay, so then we're going to talk about heat. And I've given a lot of consideration to this. My first thought was that I would get a heating pad or a heating blanket to put in my really comfy sleeping bag. But I've been just kind of seeing how things are going in the car. We're now during the night, it's like 11 degrees Celsius. And I find that I'm super warm in my sleeping bag. So I feel like I would actually get too hot if I put a heating pad or a heating blanket inside my sleeping bag. And the only thing that I've really noticed when it's getting like really chilly at night is the air is cold. It's not as cold as what it's going to be soon, but what I thought I would need specifically is a heater or some kind of heat source for the air. So my decision was I would go and look at one of those little tiny personal heaters. I also wanted a heater that could be run on the Jackery 500. So obviously it had to be 500 watts and under. I did go to Canadian Tire and look at those little heaters, and they were like in the $30-$40 range. But I bought one, plugged it into the Jackery. I think it was able to go between 400 and 600 watts. Like the low setting would be 300 or 400 watts. So I did that because I wanted the Jackery to be able to handle the heat. Because my EcoFlow 2, as you know, is built right into the car, so it's not movable. Right, so when that didn't work, I remembered that I had a heavier duty heater in my storage unit, but at the time that I bought it, or I had it, I only had my Jackery 500. I tried it on the EcoFlow. So the EcoFlow will handle that. It's just, it throws out more heat and it's not portable. So for now, until I find a solution for a heat source that I can plug into my Jackery to put in the tent, I'm going to just use this other heater that I have. It's limited to just inside the car, which is fine for now. Right, so that's what I'm going to do for the air. I can also, once my SUV tent once I'm using the standalone tent, I will be able to run the car if I need to get heat directly from the car. So that's great. So also what I decided I would do is stay in my sleeping bag, but not use a heating pad or a heating blanket. I've been working on a wool blanket. Well, it's 20% wool, 80% I think it's synthetic, but it's so warm even while I'm sitting crocheting it. It's super warm. I'm going to try that in the next couple of nights. I'm just finishing up that project. And I think that laying that over my sleeping bag is going to make a huge difference. Or I could even put it in the sleeping bag and kind of wrap myself around. But I like to have a lot of room to move around in my sleeping bag. So I think that's the solution for that. Another couple of things that are really helping in terms of keeping the inside of my car nice and warm are my window covers. So I ended up buying those WeatherTech window covers, which, as you know, there's silver on one side and black on the other. So during the summer, obviously, I use the silver facing out to keep the sun out of the car. And lately, since it's been getting chilly, I've been using the window covers with the black going outside. And I have noticed that when I don't have the window covers up, it's pretty cold. As soon as I put them up, it's very warm and it stays warm. I have noticed a little spot in the car by my shoulders where there's a pretty big draft. So I'm probably going to put something there at night to eliminate the draft. When the fridge compressor kicks in, the vent that is facing towards me throws out a bit of heat. It's not a lot, but it, gives a little boost of warmth. Also, with winter comes more stuff and heavier stuff. All my sweaters, bulky pants, I've got rain boots, winter boots, shoes, all of that. So as I'm collecting all this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I need more space to be able to carry these things around with me. And my little cargo box here is amazing, provides an amazing amount of space. But as I'm accumulating more necessary things that I'm going to need for winter, I decided that I'm going to put a secondary cargo box, but it's not a box. So it's like a canvas. I think it's weatherproof, but we'll soon find out. And if it's not, then I have that lightweight tarp that I can wrap around it. So I'm going to show you that. I don't know if I'm going to set it up in this video, but moving forward, all these things are going to be put into place. In my hardtop cargo box, I will be putting more of my personal items or things that can't get wet. Because I also thought, if by chance I don't find a campsite, or something just goes awry with that plan, I will be able to put all my things up on my roof so that I could stealth camp somewhere or stay at a rest stop, or one of those, or I'm on the road for longer than I thought and everything has to be put away in case I have to sleep in the back of my car, right? So that's how I'm dealing with storage of my stuff. I also switched up my green comfy chair. So it's just too big to lug around, especially in the winter. So I brought it back to the storage unit, and I have a smaller chair. Some of the other things I got from the storage unit for the new tent includes, the smaller chair, and then I have a little table, kind of like a TV tray back in the day, but it adjusts in height and it will be really useful. I also got a portable clothes hanger. I have my raincoat, I have my puffy jacket, I have like lightweight jackets, and they get damp, and when I'm out in the rain and I go back into the tent, there's nowhere to hang them. So they just get piled up. They don't really ever get dry. So I think that's going to be really useful. The thing with that I was hoping for with a little heater is I could plug the heater into the jackery and put it by the wet clothes, but I haven't solved that solution yet. But I think just having the hanger or the clothes rack will be a great solution to wet and damp things. Okay, so now I'm going to pitch that new tent and see how it works. I want to do that obviously before I end up at the next campground and I don't have my SUV tent. Right, so I'm going to do that now. If you want to watch that, then let's go. Okay guys, so here is the tent. You can see it's very well used, so I have no idea if all the parts are in here. I haven't even opened it. I wanted to wait to do it here. It is a 6-person tent, and Roots is a good brand, so I'm hoping it's going to work out. So here we go. Okay, we have a huge problem. So there should be this many tent poles in the tent bag, and there are no poles. Oh my goodness. So that's okay. I wanted to do this open the tent bag on this video, just because if it didn't work, then I was going to tell you about my plan B and my plan C, which is still an idea in my head. But also, I'm just thinking about this tent. I probably wouldn't have been able to pitch it by myself because it's like it looks like complicated setup system. So that's fine. I knew that was a possibility. So what I'm going to do is salvage some of the pieces of that tent, because there was for sure a tarp and a couple other things that I may be able to use. So that's great. Okay, so part B. One of my thoughts was I would get a pop-up canopy shelter, because when I was camping at some other campgrounds, some people had these really big ones. And the main thing that I want to be able to do is back the car into whatever shelter or tarping or canopy setup that I'm going to have. Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the drawing table, come up with either the solution of having a canopy pop-up shelter, or what I could do is with this big, huge tarp I have, I could make a structure. But the issue with that is I want to be able to come out of my car and be in a, a private enclosed shelter. So I'm definitely going to do a part 2 of my winter prep, because there's a lot more that I'm doing that it was just too much to show in this one video. So I'm going to go back to the drawing table, guys, figure out the tent part, and then I'll come back in my part 2 and share with you a possible solution that I have for my shelter. Anyways, I hope you liked this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content from me, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care.